Hello, BookTube, and welcome to March Mystery Madness, a BookTube sprawling event. A dozen channels participating in this event that is 2 or 3 years old now, 3 or 4 years old on BookTube, to celebrate all things murder mystery in the month of March. And all of my colleagues, my compatriots in March Mystery Madness are tackling the event in their different ways. There are all the bells and whistles. There's a Goodreads group. There are reading challenges and sprints. There are prompts. Uh, in this case, a vaguely wedding-inspired prompt of old, new, borrowed, blue, and wedding. And there are live streams. And also there is the infinite variety of all of these different BookTube channels approaching murder mysteries from all their different angles. And the angle that I do on this channel, of course, is new releases, where I'm just taking you through some of the month's murder mysteries, just to talk about them, how they fit into the larger umbrella of murder mysteries just in general, and see what you think. And the one I want to pick today is historical. So we've been dealing with a few historical murder mysteries. That is one appeal, taking the reader back in time. But it adds to the normal historical novel the element of that someone has been murdered and someone wants to find out why. And this is an American debut. This is Craig Russell's The Devil Aspect. And it's set in 1930s Prague. There's an infamous asylum for the insane in the mountains outside of Prague. And let me read it to you here. It's 1935. Victor Karashek, a psychiatrist who is trained under Carl Jung, arrives at the infamous Hrad Orlu Asylum for the Criminally Insane. The state-of-the-art facility is located in a medieval mountaintop castle outside of Prague, though the site is well known for concealing dark secrets going back many centuries. The asylum houses the country's 6 most treacherous killers, known to the staff as the woodcutter, the clown, the glass collector, the vegetarian, the sciomancer, and the demon. And Victor hopes to use new medical techniques to prove that these patients share a common archetype of evil, a phenomenon he calls the devil aspect. And we, as readers in the 21st century, are supposed to see that what he's gropingly trying to get at here is psychopathology. He's trying to get at the phenomenon of the psychopath. As he begins to unlock their stunning secrets, and you're going to see this coming, but boy, does the author do it well, Victor must face the disturbing possibility that these 6 share a darker, unimaginable truth. There's something connecting these 6, aside from just the bad chemistry in their brain. And it's a fantastic piecemeal reveal when it happens. But there's also it's not just, interviews. There's a plot as well. I mean, the second paragraph here gives you the plot. Meanwhile, in Prague, in the city proper, the fear grips the city as a phantom killer, a serial killer known as Leather Apron, emerges from dark alleys. Police investigator Lukasz Smolak, desperate to locate the culprit, turns to the doctors at Hrad Orlu for their expertise of the psychotic mind. The Devil Aspect, steeped in folklore and set in the shadow of the rise of the Nazis, is a stylish, terrifying, propulsive novel that will keep readers guessing to the final page. And Leather Apron, those of you who are perhaps overly familiar with the case of Jack the Ripper, will immediately have pricked up your ears at the mention of Leather Apron, because he was one of the suspects whose shop was mobbed, who was interviewed over and over again by the police, and who was eventually acquitted. And the killer, Leather Apron, in 1930s Prague, is a Jack the Ripper copycat. He is copying some of the more notorious aspects of the Ripper killings. So you get those two things, and as in the case with all novels, because these are made up stories, those things are going to be connected, all of them. The horrible thing that the inmates share in the asylum, and also the killer who's out on the loose. That all of this is going to fit together in a neat package. And a lot is going to ride on the man, the psychiatrist, who has come into this whole stew trying to make sense out of it. And Craig Russell does a really good job. I want to warn again. I keep having the same warning, but maybe it's endemic to the genre. I have to warn readers who want a bang right away that you're not going to get that in this book. This is a slow, meticulous build of a book. The second half really pays off the patience of the first half. So once again, I would use this as a perfect example. There are innumerable examples I could use, but I would use this as a perfect example of the kind of book I'm thinking of when I talk about the evils of bailing on books. Because bailing means that when a book starts to try your patience, you drop it and you move on. And And the implication is not that you are putting it aside temporarily. The implication is that the book is at fault. And that's not always true. I'd say 50% of the time it probably is, but the other 50% of the time you're missing books like this. And lots of other books, including lots of other historical murder mysteries that I could name, where it just doesn't work that way, where the payoff is cumulative. And giving you cumulative payoff is a prerogative of an author. If they decide that they want to try that and they're good at it, well, it's a legitimate thing to do in a work of fiction. And you rule that out completely if you expect a roller coaster ride from page one. You don't get that in this book, but Prague is captured wonderfully. I have a sweet tooth for Prague in fiction. The Prague of the era is captured wonderfully. The rise of that threat, that mention that the cover copy made of the ominous growing threat of the Nazis is captured perfectly, and also the fairly heavy-handed allegory between the Nazis and crazy people and these violent and insane lunatics who are having their way is done with a fairly light touch. I mean, a less confident author might have laid that on with a trowel. I've actually seen them do that. I've seen some historians do that as well, and it doesn't really happen in this case. And the Jungian aspect is handled well. I know that might come as a surprise. I've made no secret of my opinion of psychiatry on this channel. But nevertheless, it has now a long history and lots of fascinating characters and thinking behind it. And I'm never sorry to see it invoked in a work like this. Never. The Interpretation of Murder by Rubenfeld is a fantastic novel, also Jungian. And that's a fantastic historical murder mystery with a psychiatry angle there. So I didn't mind seeing it all in this. This was atmospheric and by the end extremely pleasing. So this is out already, I believe, in bookstores. Do we have a date on this? Well, March. Do we have an exact date on this? I think it's early March. Yeah, it is. It's out already in bookstores. And in bookstores, it's $27. So, buy accordingly. If a nice, immersive, personality-driven historical story that only starts to become really gripping at the halfway point isn't, in your opinion, worth your $30, then this is not the book for you. If that's the kind of reading experience that you're into, that you want, like, for instance, probably in modern times, the most famous example of a historical murder mystery with a psychological bent that takes its sweet time building in momentum would be The Alienist by Caleb Carr. Now, that book sold a bucket load of copies. It sold millions and millions of copies. So obviously, its particular pacing pleased a number of readers. If you're one of those readers, this is that kind of book. And the protagonist, since we're talking about all the aspects of these recurring things for March Mystery Madness, the protagonist here is yet a different kind of protagonist than what we've seen. He is not damaged, and he is not a policeman, and he's not really a maverick. He is more along the lines of the archetype that we'd be looking at here would be the consulting expert of one kind or another. Like, for instance, the Ellie Griffith novels. Ruth Galloway is a consulting expert. She herself is not excessively damaged. She's not a maverick. She doesn't shoot off her mouth or quote poetry at crime scenes or whatever. She's not a tough guy like we saw yesterday. Instead, she's a consulting expert. She has expertise that people need. Same thing with the main character here. And I'm curious to know if that is an archetype and thing in mysteries that pleases you. Is that a particular favorite of yours, a sweet tooth, a visiting expert like that? And can you come up with other examples? Because another aspect of March Mystery Madness that I'm loving is all the recommendations. I absolutely love that. I could question a little, I could caution a little about those recommendations that if we've spent so much time together on this channel that by now I would think that you would know not to phrase your recommendation as, you really should try Stephen Saylor's Roman mysteries. You might want to phrase your recommendations wondering if I've read the book or even assuming that I have, but one way or another, that's not going to stay true because you have read enormously, and so have I. So our reading won't overlap. So I'm curious. When I was reading this book, I was thinking of all the different examples that I can come up with of the visiting expert mystery type. And some of them are very annoying, especially when the expert turns out to be great at everything. And some of them are more fascinating. The Ruth Galloway novels improve on me as time goes on. And there are many other examples I can come up with. I'd like to hear your examples as well. But once again, for March Mystery Madness, probably fittingly, since we're celebrating mysteries here, not condemning them, this is a recommend. With those caveats in mind, it's that kind of a novel. It wants to build in suspense. It wants to inquire, sometimes with a good deal of complexity, into the workings of damaged human minds. And it can't do that with people dropping out of windows or firing off revolvers every other page. And the author has the sense and the respect for his readers to know that. So that's going to be March Mystery Madness for today. It's a historical mystery, and it's a visiting expert mystery that I liked quite a bit. So I'm going to wrap this up for now, but we'll be back with another mystery tomorrow. So I'll see you then. Thank you, BookTube.